Christine Wada, you are a first-time Emmy nominee for your costumes on Loki. How does it feel?
Very exciting to be nominated. And yes, I'm, of course, super honored. And just, yeah, first time. Come on, amazing.
How did you find out?
Oddly, I found out through the showrunner because we were so busy that morning that the showrunner texted me, congratulations. And then it just started a flood of congratulations. So, but it was very special to have it be the showrunner or the executive producer who I did first season with, Kevin Wright,
Mm-hmm.
text me and congratulate me. It was perfect.
That's
Perfect
awesome.
way to find out.
Yeah, like what better way to find out while you're working on season two and then finding out? Yeah.
Just absolutely, and with your season two family,
Mhm.
as season one family. So yes.
Well, I love the show and I love the entire look of it as well, down to the costumes. But first of all, I have to know, did you attend Loki School taught by Professor Tom Hiddleston to get a crash course on
That is
Loki?
amazing. Of course I did, and I took notes and raised my hand
What
to
kind of
ask.
questions did you ask?
Um, Mainly armor questions and horn questions. Really wanted to know what worked and what didn't work. And of course, he had his own sort of list of what did work, what didn't work. So
Mhm. So what did you learn from that class and from Tom himself about horns and armor?
first of all, the horns really came out mainly for fighting sequences, which I did not know, and that they were quite complicated just in weight and for the fight sequences. So they had to choreograph and learn a way to sort of magic them in and out. And that the armor itself transitioned from a hard, heavy armor to leather, which became much more practical for the stunts and the action required of those movies. So I did learn quite a bit about armor.
He's like a Loki encyclopedia, really. So
Well, and he is, and really beyond just the practical. For me, it was really helpful because I'm not necessarily from I don't have the biggest encyclopedia of Marvel history. And granted, working with Marvel, you have access to so many knowledgeable people and so many resources, but having Tom give you the backstory of Loki, it does really inform your choices moving forward. And especially because Loki, the series in season one, was carving out a new look and a new trajectory and a new world for Loki. So having that backstory and all that encyclopedia type information helped all of us and me to keep moving along the same path and have sort of the design choices that felt correct to the backstory.
right. And it is so
Right.
interesting because especially in the premiere, it's primarily set into TVA, and you're really, like Tom has talked about this, like you're really stripping Loki of his armor because he's not in green, he's wearing this brown jumpsuit at the TVA with like orange lettering, and but like that look really fits into like the world building of the TVA because it's very like middle management, kind of like board office style, retro analog. So what went into that costume design, and also like how much did you work with or collaborate with like the production designer like Hazra Farhani and kind of matching the tone and style?
Sure. Well, to answer the first part of your question, the um, creating the TVA and the first look for Tom in that jumpsuit was, there's a real intention to make him look vulnerable and really take him out of his, so it would be jolting, because you initially see him in his Avengers costume and then you just have to go to the complete opposite of something that just is bland, shall we say.
Yeah.
But then taking him into this sort of detective world, sure, it was a TVA middle management sort of the uniformed look, but there still are Loki elements to it. He popped the collar, the fit. There's no way that a Loki would just once given an item of clothing, just sort of not begin to transform it. And we really talked about how would Loki take these issued clothing and lokify it, right?
That was the verb on set.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's also the same thing with the variant jacket, which I also love. Just yeah.
That's the one I'm talking. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about, where he just immediately he has to pop the collar,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And make it Loki. So and then sorry, the second question was about
like collaborating with Kazra.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Huge. A huge collaboration both with Kazra and with Autumn, and of course all under the umbrella of Kate, the director. We oddly all shared similar boards before we had all met. We had similar influences, and I'd say notably Brazil, and also sort of the sort of a mindfulness to one foot in reality and recognizable imagery or language. So we collaborated. I will say that the color palette of the TVA, I learned what Kazra was doing, and there were many illustrations to pop the costumes or to make it a little more streamlined, a little more sci-fi. And I really gambled, and luckily Marvel really went along with it to sort of marry into the background and let the world feel just sort of stripped of a lot of personality. And like you said, it was like a police station. It looks sort of like
yeah, it's very like monotonous. It's like a DMV. I think
yes.
Kate has described it that way.
Yes, very much so. So, it became definitely a marrying. I was constantly interacting with Kazra and Autumn on what the lighting was going to be like. What is the color palette of this room, that room, and testing everything. Luckily, Autumn really also had a real vision for how that was going to work. So
yeah, for sure. Well, the other look that Loki is primarily in, I guess you would say, is the button-down shirt and like the dark pants and the tie. But that, I think the same way you Lokify that, because it's not like a regular button-down shirt. Like there's like kind of different shoulder pads. I don't know how to describe it. But so how did you design that, and putting that element in the shirt to make it a little bit off, a little bit more Loki?
It really started from, like I said, trying to keep with certain images that are recognizable. And to me, a shirt collar is still something that's been recognizable and used throughout history, but what can you do to make it to bridge the gap between something a little futuristic and something that is also a little retro? So his shirt came about from really trying to play with already existing design elements that wouldn't bump too much, because I think I didn't want anything to be extra distracting, as if, oh, wow, that is just a whole new configuration of men's wardrobe. I still wanted to be recognizable, because we still really have that mid-century, late 1950s, 1960s Mad Men meets Blade Runner element to the show. So it's still, that look to me still tied us into that language. And his pants, oddly enough, were they were made out of 1960s sharkskin fabric. And they are very Loki in that they shift from brown to green. It's a shark skin that goes from brown and then has a green shimmer to it, which I'm
Perfect
not
for a
sure.
shapeshifter.
Huh?
Perfect for a shapeshifter.
Right? Exactly.
I did love those pants because it's they looked perfectly tailored, and I was like, they cannot be just regular dress pants because he would like rip them if he's fighting in them, right?
I thank you for that. They are regular dress pants, and they really are Italian mohair from the 60s suiting, and it really takes a professional to wear those. And also it was and the fact that they're fit perfectly. Yeah, I think I can be proud that we made it through season 1 without stretchy fabric on Tom.
I know I've always said like that man can wear a suit, so he looked great in those pants and that shirt.
Thank you. And well, also, and the shirt was really a conscious decision to carry through the season because it could show a progression of battle, of time, of destruction, of
Right.
So
yeah, especially by the finale when he's trying to stop Sylvie.
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could sort of progress with his character, which was also a very conscious decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Sylvie, like her look is kind of the opposite of his because she does have armor because she's like a badass. And last year, Sophia DiMartino, she tweeted like a behind the scenes photo, and she thank you for accommodating her I guess you made a maternity wardrobe, I guess you could say, a maternity costume because she was breastfeeding. So you built in like hidden zippers into her costume. So was that something you did on your own, or did you have like discussions with her about working that into her wardrobe?
Well, the first fitting I did with her came to London, and she had, I think, literally had her baby 11 days, 14 days before that first fitting. And I just took one look at her and I thought, she has to play so many roles. She has to be a mom and be a badass. And I really wanted her to be able to focus on both at the same, and I wanted her to be successful. So I flew back to the States, and it's the first thing the cutters and I worked on because I thought, and especially my assistant designer at the time had just had a baby. So I also really knew what I just know what it means and how difficult it is. And society isn't really set up for that. It's not really the easiest thing to be a working mother. So it was the first thing we worked on when I got back. And it's just something, I guess, I've always just wanted. I see that actors' comfortability is always important, a part of my job, because it only facilitates this the success of their acting. It helps them get into character. I mean, granted, there are times where you want the costumes to actually get in the way if that's what the story calls for, but ultimately you hope that you give them the tools to just focus on what they need to focus on, and then everybody's successful, right?
Yeah, and it's so crazy that she went back to work so early too after.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, so how difficult
And her
was
first
it?
baby, by the way,
Mhm.
so that's
Yeah, that's a lot. So how difficult was it, or was it difficult figuring out how to hide the zippers and just creating that easy access for her?
it oddly wasn't that easy, because I think we probably went through 4 or 5 different variations of where those zippers should live, where it was comfortable, how high up they needed to go, how far down they needed to go, where they could be hidden. It took some R&Ding for sure.
Mhm.
A little R&D, but it's everything's R&D in costumes. There's so many layers to what you do, what we do, that's not really seen.
Mhm. But totally worth it because that's just And have you ever made like a costume that type of accommodation before? Maybe not specifically for breastfeeding, but anything similar like that?
Um, no, not really, not to that extent, I'd say. No, not to that extent.
Mhm. Well, I think in the fifth episode, that's when we have a whole bunch of Lokis. There's classic Loki, of course, Kid Loki, Boso Loki, and then the President Loki, a bunch of other ones. So, how many costumes did you have to do for that, and how much of a reference point were the comic books for that episode?
Well, I think that Kid Loki, classic Loki, boastful Loki, they, well, and we won't talk about alligator. Those
Alligator
three-
Loki is the real star.
yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, it speaks for himself.
Yeah.
They are very specific to the comic books, to the more recent Loki comics. And the bandit Lokis were all created and made up. And of course, President Loki is specific to that president, to the more current comic books. And I would say that they're costume-wise, they're really quite accurate. And classic Loki is, I mean,
I love
a
classic Loki.
real, I mean, oh, I
Was
just
that
love,
just all spandex?
oh, it's all, and some is actually vintage spandex, which is great. I found some dead stock spandex and
Oh my
it's,
God.
I know, I mean, only I know it, but it just, and the actor, and I think it just sort of, it's like a little secret that you love. But yeah, that whole character just being able to be such a throwback to those early 60s comics was brilliant. And to not give him a muscle suit, even though he might be mad at me for life for not giving him a muscle suit. And I like, but I always like to say, but I gave you a cape, a cape.
I
You got
know
a
you have horns and like everything.
but the bandits were fun. I kind of wish we got to see them more because they were COVID babies. During COVID, I really got to illustrate and come up with some really fun ideas for those characters. There's some hidden gems in there. Like, I don't know if people got to see like the
Like
bicycle,
what?
like the bicycle Loki has
Uh-huh.
handlebars, or that prisoner Loki, his weapon is like a lost Fabergé egg.
These are like this. That's a literal Easter egg. Then.
Easter egg, yes. Or
For people
that
to go back and find.
the dictator looking Loki, his necklace is made out of the birds on Lamentis, they're like the balls that they throw up in the air. So his necklace is like, it's almost like a bone. It's like a bone necklace. But it's really
I
just
gotta go back and rewatch it now. So like pause.
yeah.
Um,
And there's also the one Loki that's I called him Wolfie Loki, because Kate and I had always tried to play with getting the wolf coat from the comic books into, but every time we would go to sketch it or think about it, just the idea of using real wolf heads was
yeah.
difficult to wrap our heads around and just look too sinister. And so he has a ironic 1990s-esque howling wolf at the moon t-shirt that I don't think anybody saw, and it makes me so
That is
sad.
like a deep cut.
It's a deep cut.
Yeah.
And there's a little Loki from Avengers climbing the mountain that the wolf is howling to.
There's so much going on. I'm like, are you doing this for season 2? Or are you hiding all these
exactly. I think I
things?
need to. I should resurrect it. Yes.
Yeah, well, what can you tell us about season 2?
Nothing.
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 No.
No.
I mean, I did see those sets on a McDonald's set recently. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. So you can't say anything.
Well, and yeah, no, I couldn't say a thing. I could never do that. No, can't spoil it.
We won't get you in trouble. Well, how excited are you to be working on season 2? And just advancing these characters and through their clothing again in another season.
Really excited about it. It's the first time I've ever done a season 2 of anything, because I really just generally like to just set the look and then go. And then, but this is like they're constantly evolving new looks, and also just the people involved are so lovely, and the story itself of Loki's trajectory has so much potential to keep evolving and changing. And creatively, it's a pleasure to work on, because you have so much foundation to sort of launch ideas from.
For sure.
So.
Well, can't wait to see it. Christine, congratulations again, and thanks so much for your time, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.